Hello everyone, welcome to Baji Rao IAS Academy. So we have been discussing Jammu Administrative Services previous year's questions from past few lectures. So in this lecture also we have few questions and we will discuss them. So we have been discussing General Studies paper 2 of Jammu Administrative Services. So please understand, so there is no difference between the syllabus of Jammu Administrative Services and UPSC mains. So therefore, if you understand these questions and if you understand how to structure the answer, it will be really helpful for your UPSC examination and even state PSC examinations, because structuring the answer is very important. Because when you structure the answer, so you have to identify different parts within the question. So you have to address each and every part which is given in the question so that you will get maximum marks, right? So that ensures your success. So this question is about India France relations. Now in recent times, India and France have been uh, you know they have developed robust strategic partnership. Strategic partnership is a long term partnership between two different countries. So since both India and France have shared interests, a common interest, so they have developed robust strategic partnerships in recent past. So the question has been asking us that discuss this robust strategic partnership between India and France in the context or in the light of recent joint exercises between India and France. So India and France, there were multiple exercises. Okay, for example, Garud exercise, Shakti exercise, and night 21 exercise. So there are a wide variety or different number of exercises. Now we need to discuss this question, discuss the strategic relationship between India and France in the context of these bilateral military exercises. Right. So first and foremost, we need to understand recently India and France have celebrated 25 years of this strategic partnership. Okay. So firstly, they have signed strategic partnership in the year 1998. Okay, so they have signed a strategic partnership in the year 1998. So recently both these countries have celebrated 25 years of this strategic partnership. So on this particular eve, it presents a very important opportunity for both India and France to introspect their existing relationships. So if they can introspect their relationship, so that could be helpful for those for these two countries to further step up the relationship. Okay, so we have understood that both these countries have signed strategic partnership agreement in the year 1998. Okay, so this can be called as a time tested strategic partnership. So India and France partnership can be called as a time tested strategic partnership. So because the partnership between India and France is built on shared values, aspirations of peace, stability, and importantly, desire for strategic autonomy. Now, what is a strategic autonomy? Strategic autonomy, a country taking decisions on its own, right? So, no other country influences the independent decisions of one country. So, India has been following the strategic autonomy, and France also, to a major extent, following the policy of strategic autonomy. Okay, so since both these countries have shared values and shared aspirations of peace and stability within the region and beyond the region, so their strategic partnership, India and France strategic partnership, has been flourishing over a period of 25 years, last 25 years. Okay, so one thing we need to understand when we talk about India-France relationship is that there's no substantial disagreements between two nations when it comes to regional peace, regional stability, or the global issues. So there's no substantial disagreements between these two countries. So these countries have been engaging with each other. For example, India and France together have launched the International Solar Alliance. Okay, so apart from International Solar Alliance, these two countries have been also engaging closely to ensure stable and peaceful, inclusive Indo-Pacific. Stable, peaceful, and inclusive Indo-Pacific, particularly in the context of the assertive China, which has been challenging the existing global order. Okay, so therefore there are no real substantive disagreements between India and France. So that is the essence of flourishing bilateral engagement between these two countries. Now we need to understand the bilateral engagement, the partnership between these two countries in the context of security and sovereignty. Now, security is a very important component in the bilateral engagement between these two countries because, so if you know that Rafale fighter jets were supplied by France to India. So, in this context, the partnership for security and sovereignty occupies a preeminent position. Okay, so first and foremost, the continuation of cooperation, particularly with respect to fighter jets and submarines. Now, not just fighter jets, the defense cooperation between India and France includes not just fighter jets, but it also includes the supply of submarines to India. Okay, so earlier France delivered all 36 Rafale fighter jets in a time-bound manner, so there was no delay. So all the fighter jets were supplied on time. So total 36 fighter jets are supplied to India by the France. Okay, they are Rafale fighter jets. So in this context, the success of P-75 submarine program. Okay, so please also remember P-75 is a submarine program. So the success of P-75 program, it is for 6 Scorpion class submarines. Okay, so in this P-75 program also, France has a, you know, uh, India has been engaging with France in P-75 project as well. However, when we talk about the space cooperation between these two countries, so it a visible space cooperation between India and France, particularly in the context of recent Gaganyaan mission, training astronauts and supplying other critical supplies for the Gaganyaan mission. Okay, so as part of the space cooperation and space collaboration, so both the countries have been enhancing the scientific and commercial partnerships. Okay, so for example, there were recently different agreements were signed between France and India. For example, France's CNES agreement and India's ISRO. So these are both their respective space agencies, and these two space agencies have signed agreements in recent past to further strengthen their space cooperation. Okay, now, after that, we should also talk about the civil nuclear cooperation. Now, we are discussing all these points as part of the robust strategic partnership of France and India. Now, when once we discuss the areas of robust strategic partnership, we will also discuss all the bilateral military exercises. Now, so civil nuclear energy cooperation agreement. See, France was one of the first country France was one of the first country which had a civil nuclear cooperation agreement with India. So because India had conducted a series of nuclear tests, and because of these nuclear tests, the international community started isolating India. Okay, so since international community had imposed sanctions and started isolating India, now India require energy security. Now India looking forward for the nuclear energy. So since India is looking for nuclear energy, the civil nuclear cooperation for supply of nuclear reactors and supply of other material and supply of uranium, civil nuclear energy cooperation is very important. So France has one of the first countries which has inked the civil nuclear cooperation agreement. So there's a progress of 6 European pressurized reactors. So they are planned to set up in Jaitapur nuclear power plant, that is in Maharashtra. Okay, so now these two countries have also been cooperating or engaging in developing small modular reactors and advanced modular reactors. So therefore, the strategic partnership also extended to the civil nuclear energy. Now, as I have already told you that India and France have been actively engaging in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, Indo-Pacific region has assumed significance, particularly because of Chinese assertiveness, aggression in the Indo-Pacific region, and China has emerged as a potential threat for India, security threat for India. Now, China's debt trap diplomacy and China's aggressive military postures within the Indo-Pacific and beyond, it has been raising concerns. It is poised to challenge the existing global order. So that is not in the best interest of either India or France. So therefore, these two countries have been engaging in the Indo-Pacific Indo-Pacific region. Okay, particularly cooperating in different, for example, maritime cooperation, humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, and strengthening the capacities of these littoral countries in the Indian Ocean. Okay, so the overall objective of these countries in the Indo-Pacific is to ensure free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. Okay. Now, these two countries have adopted a joint roadmap. Okay, so these joint roadmap guides joint actions between India and France. So this joint roadmap will cover all aspects of comprehensive strategy. So that should be followed in this region. Now, after that, the discussions were also finalized on Indo-French Development Fund. Okay, so Indo-French Development Fund is a collaborative fund, and this fund is specifically for the third world countries. Now, if you understand, there are few first world countries which are the Western world is called as a first world, and the Eastern world, so that includes Russia and other Eastern European countries, they are called as a second world, and all the erstwhile colonial states are called as third world countries. So therefore, both these countries have been finalizing an Indo-French Development Fund. So this fund is specifically for the third world countries. Now, United Nations has declared 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. However, the third world countries or the developing countries lack capacities and finances. Okay, so the development of third world countries is in the interest of both India and France. So therefore, they have established Indo-France Development Fund. So this particular fund will help financing the sustainable development projects of the Indo-Pacific region. Okay. Now, apart from these two countries have been also cooperating on counter-terrorism. Okay. So, when it comes to France's GIGN and India's National Security Guards, so NSG. So, both these security forces have been engaging to counter terrorism. Now, terrorism is India is one of the most vulnerable country for terrorism, and there were instances of terrorist attacks in France as well. For example, Charlie Hebdo, Charlie Hebdo. So there was terror attacks. So in this particular context, it is very important for these two countries in cooperating on counter terrorism. Now, after that, critical technologies, they have also been cooperating on critical technologies, critical and cutting edge digital technologies. For example, supercomputing. In India, we have Shivai, Param Siddhi. They are supercomputers, right? Now, in the development of these supercomputers, both these countries have been cooperating and engaging with each other. Now, this also extends to cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. Okay, so these are the areas both these countries have been very actively engaging. Now, after that, we need to discuss about the bilateral military exercises. So, what are the bilateral military exercises which used to take place between these two countries? So, first and foremost, we need to discuss about the Fringex 23. So, this a military exercise. This was recently held between Indian Army and French Army. So this can be called as a first joint military exercise. This Fringex is a first joint military exercise between Indian Army and French Army, because this is the first time. This is actually the first time both these countries have engaged militarily. Okay, so in a team format consisting of a company group. So what is the objective of this Fringex 23 military exercises? Military exercise is that enhancing the interoperability, coordination and cooperation. Okay, so it enhances interoperability, coordination and cooperation between the both forces at the tactical level. Okay, so this is the overall objective of the Fringex 23. Uh, so the next exercise between these two countries is Shakti exercise. Okay, so the major objective of Shakti exercise is counter terrorism. Counter terrorism is the major objective of the Shakti exercise. For example, there is a UN mandate. So UN mandate in the sense that in semi-urban terrains, in order to prevent the acts of terrorism, uh, UN has come up with a mandate. So this Shakti exercise particularly focuses on counter-terrorism operations. So overall, it aimed to enhance the military cooperation and interoperability between the two armies. So interoperability means that one country's military equipment can be easily used by the other country's armed forces. So there will be a chance of interoperability and military cooperation between the armies of both India and France. So apart from these two exercises, Shakti and Fringex, there are also several other exercises. For example, Garud, another exercise which is used to take place between India and France. So the strategic partnership has also extended from several areas which we have discussed to the bilateral military exercises. So, however, when you look at these bilateral military exercises, India has been holding many number of bilateral exercises with France than any other country. Okay, so most number of bilateral exercises is generally India has with France. So therefore, such a bilateral exercises will further strengthen the existing strategic partnership between these two countries. Okay, so therefore, in conclusion, when you write the conclusion, you have to mention the how India France cooperation will be helpful for both these countries in the long term. So this is what you have to write. So in the context of the Indo-Pacific, increasing importance for Indo-Pacific in the backdrop, and also in the backdrop of China's aggression at the line of actual control and Indian Ocean, the cooperation between India and France is very crucial, because France will help India diversify its military supplies. Okay. Now, India predominantly depended on Russia for military supplies, but now France has been emerging as an alternative to Russia. So it will also help India diversify its security, diversify its defense supplies. Firstly, and secondly, in the context of China's aggression at the borders and in the Indian Ocean, the defense and space cooperation will also significantly benefit India. So this is how you can conclude this answer, and also stress on the need to further step up and strengthen the strategic partnership between both France and India. Okay, so this is how you can conclude this answer. Now, the next answer which we need to discuss is about the caste system in India. Okay, and the question has been asking us that critically examine how forceful expansion of reservation in recent decades has been fed by increasing politics of caste assertion. Now, India has, a reservation policy. Okay, so this is called as affirmative action or positive discrimination against in favor of the people who are historically faced discrimination, who faced historical injustice, who faced discrimination. So reservation as a policy provided for the people who have faced historical injustice. So, however, on the other hand, since independence, reservation has been continuously, you know, expanded. Reservation has been continuously expanded. So one major reason for this is the increasing politics of caste assertion. Okay, so the caste assertion as a policy has been growing. For example, 27 percentage of reservation is being provided to OBCs based on the recommendations of Mandal Commission. And in Indira Sawhney judgment 1992, Supreme Court upheld the 27 percentage of reservation for OBCs. So recently, the 103rd constitutional amendment has provided 10% reservation for, economically weaker sections of the society. So in this context, over a period of time, the reservation has been further expanded. And even there are states, for example, Marathas, Jats, and Kapus in the state of Andhra Pradesh, they have been demanding reservations. So this is solely because of increasing politics of caste accession. Okay, so this has led to the forceful expansion of reservation. Now, in this context, we need to understand what is exactly the caste system. So, what is its impact on the affirmative action or the reservation policy of India? Now, if you look at the definition of the caste system, it is actually an age-old system. Okay, so age-old hierarchical system. So, it is based on the birth of an individual in a particular community. Okay, so no doubt about that, it is an age-old caste system. So, this particular caste system is responsible for the origination of reservation system in India. So, the origin of reservation can be traced back to the caste system in India. Okay, so this is a very unique system in India. Okay, so therefore, in simple terms, it is about facilitating access to seats in the government jobs, educational institutions, and even legislature. For example, Article 330 provides reservation to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in Lok Sabha, and Article 332 provided reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in state legislative assemblies. So therefore, reservation in a nutshell can be called as facilitating access to seats in government, educational institutions, and also even in the legislature. So, however, the reservation is being provided only for those sections who have faced historical injustice because of their caste identity. Okay, because of their caste identity, reservation is being provided for the historically injustice, the people or the sections who have faced historical injustice. So however, in recent past, economic criteria has also been economic basis has also been recognized for extending the benefits of reservation. So because of this reason, the demand for reservation has been growing, further increasing over a period of time. Okay, but we are not moving towards gradually dismantling the system of reservation. So as a quota based affirmative action, so this reservation can also be seen as positive discrimination. So yes, no doubt about that, reservation is a discrimination, but this discrimination is in favor of sections or the communities who have faced historical injustice. Now, in India, the policy of reservation is backed by the Indian Constitution. So Indian Constitution backed the policy of reservation. So even though one of its judgments, Supreme Court clearly held that reservation is not a fundamental right, but it is backed by the Constitution of India. Now, the provisions like Article 15, Article 16, and Article 330 and Article 332, even Article 243D. So all these provisions providing reservations at different levels for the people who have faced historical injustice, right? Now, so after independence, only SCs and STs have got reservation. Only scheduled caste and scheduled tribes have got reservation. But gradually, in the year 1991, after independence, so OBCs were also given 27 percentage of reservation based on Mandal Commission report. Okay, based on Mandal Commission report, so these people have also, OBCs were also given 27 percentage of reservation. And as I've already discussed that recently through 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act, so that was passed in the year 2019. So this particular Amendment Act has provided 10 percentage of reservation in government jobs and educational institutions. So this 10% of reservation is for the economically weaker sections of the society. Okay. Now earlier the reservation reached to 49 percentage, so 27 percentage for other backward classes and 7.5% for scheduled tribes, and for scheduled caste 15%, and persons with benchmark disabilities 0.4%, or sorry, it is 4%. So it is 4%. So however, so in Indira Sane judgment, so Supreme Court has imposed 50 percentage of limit on reservation. So reservation should not be increased more than 50% unless it is backed by solid evidence. But however, the 103 Constitutional Amendment Act has breached the 50% ceiling that is imposed by the Supreme Court in Indira Sane judgment. Okay. So, in this context, uh, several appeals were filed, several petitions were filed challenging the 103rd Amendment. However, Supreme Court has justified the 10% reservation also. Now, the composition of reservation, if you look at what are the sections which are given reservation. So, economically weaker sections are provided 10 percentage of reservation, followed by SCs with 15% reservation, STs 7.5% reservation. So other backward classes they have given 27 percentage of reservation. So on the based on the recommendations of Mandal Commission, and persons with benchmark disabilities is 0.4 percentage. So however, according to scholars and experts, they are suggesting that through further expanding the overall pie, so overall share of reservation in the pie, it compromises merit in the administrative system, and this will also increase demand from the other sections to extend reservation benefits for them. So therefore we need to understand the reasons behind increasing demands for the reservation. So what are the reasons, what are the specific reasons? So reservation is increasingly seen as a remedy for the adverse effects or ill thought out development policies. For example, due to ill development policies, there's lack of employment opportunities, there's lack of livelihood, and there's also lack of other opportunities, and there's a poverty and backwardness. There's a huge there's a lack of infrastructure development. So, reservation is very often seen by the political class and the governments as remedy for the adverse effects. So, if government is successful to provide employment opportunities, livelihoods, and ensure all round inclusive development for the people, there's no demand for reservation. So therefore, in order to mask the failure of the government, reservation is increasingly used as a remedy for the adverse effects or ill thought out developmental policies. So this is the first and foremost reason for increasing demand for the reservation. Secondly, there are developed states like Haryana, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. So, despite the economies were well off in these states or relatively better in these states, people have been worrying because of there's an acute agrarian distress, particularly in states like Haryana and Gujarat, and even Maharashtra. Because in Maharashtra, you see, there are large number of farmer suicides in the state of Maharashtra because of the acute agrarian distress, and there's also a huge stagnation in the employment growth. So, and also unemployment levels have been rising. Now, you also come across news that Haryana state government has passed Haryana reservation of local employment bill has been passed. So this bill reserves around 75 percentage of total employment, 75 percentage of total jobs in private sector reserved for the locals. Okay. And third, there is also a distortion of the development trajectory. So the development trajectory is distorted or distracted. For example, there is a growth of income inequalities and regional inequalities and a huge corruption at different levels. So all these factors have been distorting the development trajectory even in the developed states like Haryana, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. So this is also another reason for the reservation. And after that, so in this particular backdrop, so the governments, it has become very easier to talk of reservation than to make course correction. So course correction in the sense that rather than adopting the policy of reservation, so the governments have been, it is very easy for the government, it has become very easy for the governments to talk about reservation than the course correction. So all these factors have been combined together led to the increasing demands for reservation. Okay. So after that, we need to talk about way forward. So what should be the way forward in this particular context? So the way forward is reservation is fair. No, there's absolutely no problem with reservation. So because the reservation envisages appropriate positive discrimination towards people who have faced historic injustice. Okay, and this is particularly to benefit the downtrodden and economically backward sections of the society. So when the objective is very clear, there's no problem with the reservation. But when reservation as a policy which is used to pursue narrow political benefits, then there will be a problem. Okay, but when it tends to harm the society and ensures privileges to some at the cost of narrow political ends. So now political parties have been trying to fulfill their narrow political ends by promising reservation to different sections. So in this way, the demand for reservation will continues to grow, and more sections will demand reservation for them. So therefore, it will be very difficult to done away with. Okay, as a policy, it is not possible immediately to done away with because more and more sections of the society will demand reservation. So in order to appease them or in order to gain their votes, so the political parties very often make the vote bank politics. Okay, now when more people aspire for backwardness rather than for forwardness, the country itself stagnates. So, because more and more people are demanding for reservation, so they are not ready to come out of the reservation umbrella. So, this indicates that more and more people have been aspiring for backwardness rather than forwardness. So, this led to the stagnation of the country. So, in fact, when we extend reservation So it will also compromise meritocracy. So there's no doubt about that. It compromises meritocracy because we are relaxing the barriers, the entry barriers. So they are not very tough for different sections. So that ultimately compromises meritocracy. Okay. However, Supreme Court and even several other commissions have recommended the government should follow the alternatives to reservation. For example, providing financial aid to different sections of the society, and not just financial aid. Scholarships should be provided, skill development. So, better education, quality education should be provided. Okay, and financial aid to the underprivileged. So these are the alternatives that should be explored by the state. So, at last, a strong political will is very crucial because with a strong political will, an equilibrium between justice and the backwardness, justice to the backwardness, and equity for the forwards, and efficiency for the entire system can be ensured. Okay, so with a strong political will, so there's an equilibrium or the balance between justice that should be done for the people who are backward, and also equity for the people who are forward, and also ensuring efficiency for the entire system. So this is how you can conclude this answer. So the next question is with respect to the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Now, China-Pakistan economic corridor is very often in news because it is passing through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, first and foremost thing. It is passing through Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and India is not part of the China-Pakistan economic corridor despite China's appeals to India to be part of China-Pakistan economic corridor, because firstly it has been violating India's sovereignty, and China has not been taking into consideration so India's concerns with respect to this China-Pakistan economic corridor. Okay, and such a corridor is uh, built across India's territory without taking into India's concerns into consideration. It has been further legitimizing Pakistani claim over the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So obviously this is not in the best interest of India. So because of this reason, India has been opposing China-Pakistan economic corridor. Now, apart from that, China has also been very aggressive at the line of control. So across India-China border. So not just at the line of actual control, but also at the Indian Ocean region. So because of all these concerns, India is not part of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Now the question has been asked that China-Pakistan economic corridor, it has been encroaching upon India's sovereignty. Elaborate. So how China-Pakistan economic corridor has been, encroaching upon India's sovereignty. Now, if you look at the China-Pakistan economic corridor, it starts from Kashgar in the south west China, and it ends at Gwadar port in Pakistan, or it is located in the Balochistan province. So if you look at the China-Pakistan economic corridor at the initial beginning phase, so it has been passing through Pakistan occupied Kashmir, that is India's territory. So because of this reason, India strongly opposes the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Now, if you we need to understand what exactly is China-Pakistan economic corridor. So this is a 3,000 kilometer long route of infrastructure project. So this particular project connect the northwest Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region with Gwadar Port. So where the Gwadar Port is located? The Gwadar Port is located in Pakistan. So it connects the northwestern Xinjiang, that is Uyghur Autonomous Region, with the Gwadar Port in the western province of Balochistan. Okay, so the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is actually a bilateral project between Pakistan and China. So this particular project is part of Belt and Road Initiative. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So this is actually a bilateral project between Pakistan and China. So this project is intended to promote connectivity across Pakistan. So as part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, China will build a network of highways, railways, pipelines. Okay, so these a network of infrastructure projects, so further accompanied by energy, industrial, and other infrastructure development projects. Okay, now this is not just a one-sided benefit from China to Pakistan, but on the other hand, China following the policy of debt trap diplomacy. Debt trap diplomacy. So China usually gives a debt at a unsustainable levels of interest. So over a period of time, these countries are unable to repay their debt. So as a consequence, China acquire a particular territory which has a strategic importance on lease. Okay, now in Sri Lanka also the same thing has been done. So China has taken a port for 99-year lease. So debt trap diplomacy has been benefiting China. On the other hand, these countries have been going into the economic crisis. So even Pakistan is at the verge of these economic collapse, and Sri Lanka has also faced this economic crisis. So, however, uh, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor eventually paved way for China to access Middle East and Africa from the Gada port. Now, so once Chinese goods reach Gada port, it will be very easy for China to access Middle East and West Asia, and enabling China to access the Indian Ocean as well. So once it reaches the Gada port, China can also easily access the Indian Ocean, and it is also part of encircling India. Okay, so the string of pearls policy China usually follows to encircle India. Now next, what are the implications for China-Pakistan economic corridor for India? So we need to understand the implications as well. So first and foremost implication would be it encroaches upon, or it is violating India's sovereignty. So India has been continuously opposed to the project. So that is being passed through Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Okay, so that territory is called as Gilgit Baltistan. Okay, however, this claim of India is being opposed by Pakistan. So, in fact, the China-Pakistan economic corridor is also believed to be an alternative economic road link for the Kashmir Valley. So, lying on the Indian side of the border. So, this is another concern with the China-Pakistan economic corridor, that is violating India's sovereignty. So, in fact, there have been calls for local businesses and political leaders to declare Kashmir on both sides of the, uh, Pakistani side and also Indian side of line of control, a special economic zone. So, however, there is a concern which is being involved in it. So, if Gilgit Baltistan is well connected with the Indian Ocean, Pakistan, and with China, it attracts a huge industrial development and foreign investment as well. So, in fact, if CPEC proves a success, if China-Pakistan economic corridor becomes a success, so it will further consolidate the region's perception as internationally recognized Pakistani territory. So it could be further, consolidated as a Pakistani territory. So that is not in the best interest of our country. So still we have aspirations to take back Pakistani occupied Kashmir, because that is being illegally occupied by the Pakistan. So therefore, in this context, the CPEC, if pros a success, if it pros a success, it will further consolidate the region's perception as internationally recognized Pakistani territory. So because of these reasons, India has been continuously voicing its opposition against the CPEC project. So what should be the way forward? Okay, so now the way forward should be, you know, the India should continues to oppose the China-Pakistan economic corridor. So along with that, India should consolidate its position in Kashmir. So India should be able to, leverage its military advantage or military strength in the Kashmir Valley, so that the ill intentions of both China and Pakistan, so to create instability in the region or to violate sovereignty, will not work. So therefore, in this context, India should leverage its strategic location, and it should work with like-minded countries to participate in multilateral initiatives. So for example, there is an Asia-Africa growth corridor that is being started by India with cooperation of Japan. So the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor is an India-Japan Economic Cooperation Agreement. So this growth corridor can provide India strategic benefit and it will help counter China. So apart from Japan, India, can cooperate with other like-minded countries like Australia, Japan, South Korea, France, and USA. Okay, so that will help India counter China. Now, after that, India can also be part of a Blue Dot network that was launched by USA as an alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. So, therefore, overall, India should be part of, India should engage with these like-minded countries. So, India should counter Chinese aggression and assertiveness across its borders and in the Indian Ocean. Now, after that, India should also, further strengthen its military capabilities. That will help deal with China. Okay, so these are all the questions which we have discussed today in a very detailed way, and tomorrow we will discuss few more questions. Okay, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like this video, and also hit the bell icon. Okay, so thank you.